The Protoss player in the top right is the champion of this year's Fast Risers tournament. He is MaxPax! He 3-0'd Goblin in the semis, the player who's competing with him for the title of best up-and-coming Protoss. But you know our Zerg player in the bottom left. He's not just a Guinea, he is Lambo! On paper, our two opponents are so evenly matched. The German Lambo ranks 25th in the world. The Danish MaxPax ranks 24th. Gateway down for Protoss, hatch down for Zerg. Nothing to see here, people. But as far as our players go, their ranking is about where the similarities end. Lambo's a very senior, respected veteran. MaxPax is a wild up-and-comer. He is still a question mark, but one that everyone is talking about. Today's game is on Oxide. It is not from an actual tournament. It is a ladder practice match. Extractor pool for Zerg. The probe does get the scout. Oh, and there's a pylon. There's no forge to go with this. This is a fake out. Lambo's forced to take it seriously. He pulls 2 drones to try to deal with it. But the truth is, back at home, MaxPax saving up for a Nexus. I'm assuming he's going to cancel this. We'll see how far he's going to take it. Right to the last moment, MaxPax will spend 25 minerals trying to mess with Lambo's head. His core goes down right after that Nexus. And we're off to a pretty good start here. Clearly, I should have warned you that today's broadcasting is not for Terran audiences. Dominion discretion is advised. Speaking of broadcasting, Lambo is very involved in providing analysis for Katowice right now. He's been giving some great interviews, and he's actually acting as a coach for Reynor right now. So I really knew I wanted to cast one of his games. And so when I saw there was one with MaxPax, I was totally in. Pool completes 2 queens, 2 lings. Core completes. And it's Stalker first. No chrono boost. No warp gates. We do have a tech stashing pylon. And so we will see a Stargate. A Stargate opener for Protoss. Lings are going to chase away that probe scout and pave the way for Lambo's third. Oh, if that probe doesn't hustle, he's going to be our first blood this evening. Don't feel bad, my small robotic friend. It is an honor. I suppose he can upload his consciousness to the Protoss collective, which will be unnecessary because Lambo pulls back. He was probably worried there was an adept out there and his lings were being sucked in. Ling speed is only halfway done at this point. I'm sorry, we do have one of those replays that does not have the construction icons. Fortunately, I do think we can compensate for that. We just need a dude who talks way too much, and I think I know where we can find one. Stargate has completed, nothing being made just yet. Second gateway going down instead. That completes the wall. And there it is, it's a Void Ray opener. We'll be looking to see if Protoss adds that second Stargate. That is the build that all the Zergs are talking about right now. Lambo, of course, is famous for crafting one potential solution known as the German taxi. We could see that here. Lambo's overlord tries to take a peek. He sees the second gateway, but the stalker zones him out. The Zerg overlord perching point is farther back, or at least farther back than you see on most older maps. MaxPax shades his adept over. That's going to be cover so he can get his third. And in an unusual twist, the orb is rotating downwards. Just kidding, they all do that. Ooh, there's our first blood. Since Lambo's playing with that metallic Zerg skin, the death scenes all look a little bit different. It's supposed to be a hybrid race of cyborg Zerg created by the Terrans. And then, shockingly, no one was surprised when the cyborg Zerg broke free, threw off Terran control, and became a new threat to the galaxy. That there would be a second Stargate. I think we're in business. Except that the second unit out of the first Stargate is actually an Oracle. So this is probably some variation of mass Void Ray, but we can't be too sure just yet. With 3 queens at the main, that Void Ray's not getting in. Just about every Zerg player is going crazy on the queen production these days. And seeing Void Rays gives Lambo no incentive to stop. He adds a Baneling nest. The Spore at his third is going to finish just in time. The Oracle gets nothing done. But the Revelation tag could be useful. Wow, it didn't take me long to contradict myself. I thought that Void Ray was looking for another poke, but he is heading home. Instead, MaxPax is starting up a robo. Lambo is just droning up. He's got 10 in production right now. He is going to finish his lair though. We'll have to see what he has planned for that. Presumptively baneling speed. The lack of the roach warren kind of tells me the German taxi isn't happening. I've got a crazy theory as to what Lambo's up to, but I'm kind of worried he's going to prove me wrong about 10 seconds after I say it out loud. Right now, there's a ton of talk about how Protoss has a dominant upper hand in PvZ late game. Lambo is a theory tactician that pushes the meta. In his interviews, he's been talking about his solutions to this problem. I think Lambo is in no hurry to end this game. I think he's trying to let this game go late so he can try out one of his solutions. If you wanted to test something out, MaxPax is a pretty fearsome opponent to try it out on. Now, if Lambo marches all his queens northward in the next 30 seconds, please ignore everything I've just said. What? You were going to do that anyway? Oh, thank you. Oh, the Adepts with an opportunity to snipe the fourth, but the Lings are going to save it. Well done, Lambo. And MaxPax shades into the third. He's going to get drones for that. Well done, MaxPax. Those Adepts are going to get cleaned up, but they found some value. A mechanical spore crawler. That's kind of hard to wrap your head around. MaxPax adds not just his Robo Support Bay, but also his Twilight Council. He's also adding 2 additional gates. Lambo's going for Hydra Speed +1 attack, but also an additional Evo chamber. I think I've talked about this before, but the map Oxide doesn't have a lot of expansion sites. There's only 12 bases in total, 2 of which are taken right at the start. That means, unless you're expanding faster than your opponent, you're only getting 5 bases. Okay, so MaxPax is adding disruptors. This is a new variation of double Stargate that we've been hearing about. Normally, Protoss wants to get Storm because they're anticipating Mass Hydra. Storm is normally terrific against Mass Hydra. But experimentation has shown that adding disruptors instead actually increases the Protoss' survivability. Whoa, 5 more gates. That is some serious powering. Anyways, what I was trying to say before all that shiny distracted me is that the point to the disruptor is actually defense. It keeps you relatively safe so you can transition to the late game Protoss composition where Protoss is expected to be dominant. And there is the aforementioned Hydras. They are here now, staring wistfully into the sky, reflecting on their time as young larvae in a less complicated world. So disruptors are on the way, but also +1 air attack, which tells you what the long-range plans for MaxPax really are. His Battle Duck is done, so he can add Archons. Lambo's gonna add his Baneling speed. But for right now, he's really all about the Hydra. He's adding a ton of them. He has added a Spire, but I don't think we're gonna see anything out of it just yet. MaxPax takes his 4th, so just like for Lambo, he's only got 2 bases left on his side of the map. If both our players really are looking for late game, they're gonna find the resources getting sucked up off of Oxide pretty quick. Yeah, Lambo takes his 5th. We could be looking at a scenario where every expansion's been claimed before the 10-minute mark. When you think of great late game matches that you've seen, you don't usually think of the map Oxide. So there's a real chance that they're just going to be slammed into each other and there's going to be a big battle before they actually get to their ultimate army compositions. Oh, Fleet Beacon for MaxPax. That's a big step. You don't get your Golden Armada without one of those. Though, these days, the Golden Armada actually has less air than it used to. There's a lot of ground forces that go with it. Usually the Templar is a key component of it, because the storms will turn the tide against the Corruptors. But then you need something else on the ground to protect the Templar. Lambo's hit 92 workers. I'm not shocked to see that he's pulling in more minerals and gas than his opponent. It shouldn't take him too long to max out now. And then I'm keen to see what happens. Is he going to start trading out or is he going to try to build a bank? And before I can even finish the thought, he's already maxed out. And once that happens, he puts down the Ultralisk Cavern. That's a late game PvZ tactic that I'm still trying to wrap my head around. The theory is that the Ultra armor is so potent it can just kind of shrug off the carriers. Then you can have them run in and kill those High Templar, or then you can just even tear down your opponent's base. MaxPax is looking to see if he can make a play for Lambo's 4th. If he can shut down even one of the Zerg's new bases, I think that puts Lambo in a terrible spot. So much for the Disruptor being used defensively. MaxPax is using it to attack. And I should have known, he's very good with his disruptors. Though if you missed that series I recently cast with Neeb and Solar, you'll want to see Neeb's disruptor hits. They were sensational. Okay, so I've been going on about the Ultralisk, but really it's the Vipers that are important right now. They do so much for the Zerg. Oh, I like this. Lambo's going to reinforce his 5th with a whole bunch of spines. That base is so far forward, it's very vulnerable to Zealot run-bys, which are on their way right now and are going to arrive before any of those spine crawlers can be built. Lambo has to pull his army home and save his investment. Carrier is in production, as is the Storm upgrade research. And Lambo finds room in his army to make 3 Ultralisks. He is getting that chitinous plating upgrade, +2 to the Ultralisk armor. That's so important. I mean, who doesn't love nitrogenous polysaccharides? In all honesty, though, if Ultralisk armor was actually made out of chitin, the same stuff that makes up bug shells, I really don't think they'd be surviving a marine shot, let alone tank blasts or nukes. So yeah, that's probably a poorly named upgrade. Oh, a huge pool of Zerglings was just annihilated by a disruptor hit there. Oh man, I hope I remember to get that for the replay. I'd like to see that in slow-mo. So it really does look like we're going to get to see both sides' late-game Ultimate Army compositions. Lambo's just grabbed his 6th expansion. I'd say he's officially split the map in half, but I'm not sure he's going to keep that 6. Nope, no he will not. Lambo does want to try to split the map though. He's trying for a Spore Forest. I'm kind of torn here because normally I love the Spore Forest, but Lambo's not going to have that much money on this map. It's going to cut into his bank. On the other hand, since MaxPax doesn't have a Tempest, the Spores can be super effective and turn the tide of a battle. Nice abduct by that Viper. So I haven't been a huge fan of the metallic Zerg skin, but I gotta admit, the Ultralisk and the Viper do look pretty cool. Double spires. Could just be for double upgrades, but Lambo might be also planting the seeds for Broodlords in the future. Not unheard of in ZVP, especially if Toss goes for lots of cannons. Yep, there's a Greater Spire going down. Oh, MaxPax shuts down that 6th base again. It's gonna cost him a Zealot, but oh, was it worth it? Oh, survive for the Bane! Yes! Triple backflip death. I love that animation. It's one of my faves. I tell you, Zealots take so much abuse in this game. Sometimes I think the game designers secretly hated them. Lambo's composition is so neat. He looks light on Corruptors, especially considering how many Voids and Carriers are out there. But it's deliberate. It lets him get so much other stuff. The Ultras, the Lings, and the Banes. MaxPax is planning for late game Corruptors. Protoss always does. Lambo's gonna give him a different look. MaxPax adding the Dark Shrine. Is he just filling out his tech tree, or is he actually gonna use that thing? Now that's how you entrench a position. 7 cannons backed by 2 shield batteries. Both sides are kind of finishing up their numeric upgrades here. Oh, Lambo's gonna lose his 6 again. I know it's going to sound kind of ridiculous as soon as I get this thought out of my mouth here, but it's almost like MaxPax is doing Lambo a favor. Lambo's still at 79 drones, and if he actually holds all his bases, he's going to mine out uber fast. Though I guess Lambo would say, I'd rather have that money in the bank than on the field. Lambo's Overlord saw these Void Rays coming. That is a welcome committee and a half. Oh, MaxPax is going to recall them. But to where? He's not the main, not the natural. Over at the 3rd, okay. Keeping us all guessing. Lambo remakes his 6th base. Both sides with such diverse unit compositions. If this is representative of the current meta for PvZ late game, you gotta be happy with that. The game has matured so well, at least from the perspective of the audience. Say what you want about the balance of the thing, it's getting really cool to watch. So Lambo and MaxPax are really getting down to the important business here, which is proving me wrong. They're both maxed out and they're both building really decent banks here. They're both pretty much suggesting that, map be damned, they can each get the armies they want. MaxPax is looking to see what he can get done by splitting his army. Corruptor's going right at the Void Rays. Oh, but it's parasitic bombs on all the Voids. Yeah, Lambo gets the hatchery, but that was not worth it. He lost a fortune in voids and he's gonna lose even more. Definitely taking a machete to the spore forest. Oh, look at that. With the metallic skin, the spore has a fire element. It has no actual game effect. It's actually regenerating while it's on fire. This is Lambo trying to get value from his hydras as he trades them out. He's maxing back out with more corruptors and ultralisks. So we did ultimately wind up with a lot of corruptors. That detracts a bit from some of my earlier comments. There's MaxPax taking and fortifying his 6th base. That means we officially have a split map scenario. The prophecy has come true. It is as it was foretold. The split map late game has come to pass. Oh, MaxPax giving up just too much of his army to kill a hatchery again. Yeah, Lambo loses mining time while he replaces it, but he is gonna mine it. You gotta be cost effective when you kill your hatches. Yeah, it's moments like these where you wish you had a Tempest with that tectonic destabilizer upgrade for the extra damage against structures. That tends to come out in the ultra late game. And speaking of ultras, yeah, they just don't care about those storms. They're like, it tickles, man. It's like that static electric charge you get at the science fair. Oh, look, my hair's standing on end. And then they just run through and kill everything. Oh! Lambo getting carrier kills during the recall pause. MaxPax losing his disruptors. Lambo with a huge supply lead. Did he just seize this game? MaxPax's bank vanishes. He has to liquidate everything in order to rebuild his army. He's adding immortals this time. He wants that punching power against the ultralisks. I find that so interesting because it was only a year ago that the conventional wisdom was you don't use immortals in the late game. You would send them off to die to make space in your army. And now everything's coming full circle. They're becoming quite valuable again. In the late game, I mean. They've always been of great value in the mid game. And immortals how you kill a roach. And there have been known to be 1 or 2 of those in his EVP. So MaxPax has this great whack-a-mole thing going on where he's hitting all of Zerg's newest bases. But I actually don't think it's working, just because it hasn't been efficient enough. We might be seeing him rethink this a bit. He's adding Blink and Shadow Strike, aka Dark Templar Blink. That's going to give him a ton of maneuverability over a smaller map like this. And we have seen Stalkers turn games around before where they go at those Corruptors. But oh my goodness, they cannot do anything against these Ultras. Look at that power. Is he seriously going to try Stalkers against his Ultras? No. His Stalkers look at the Ultras and just refuse. Oh, this is going to be a cool scene. Ultras baking a cake. An easy bake oven, which goes boom. I love how the Ultras all leave before the explosion even happens. Anyway, you may have caught that stat I flashed up there. Lambo's only lost slightly more minerals than MaxPax. That's not a good stat for the Protoss. The Protoss usually wants to be far ahead on that. A lurker den for Lambo. DT's out on the map for MaxPax. We'll see if they can get anything done. Lambo's got a ton of overseers. They don't cost him supply. To MaxPax's credit though, he's rebuilding his armada. His carrier count is sneaking back up. Lambo's like, how many spines and spores do I gotta make to actually hold this base? I also want to see how Lambo's gonna react to the Immortals. Up to now, the Ultras were working for him. The Immortals could really put a stop to that. So does Lambo go for Cracklings? Because they're not going to be very good against the Storm, the Archons, or the Carriers. I think I'm starting to get a sense of why this is a puzzle that Zerg is finding hard to crack. MaxPax is maxed once again. And now he's getting those defensive shield numeric upgrades. That's going to help every component of his army. Nope, not Zerglings. Lambo's going to go Broodlords. I think I'm excited to see how that's going to work. MaxPax doesn't have the Void Rays anymore. That's usually the first reaction with the Stargate heavy Protoss. MaxPax has 4 Stargates. But he's also got a lot of Archon. He might decide that's enough to handle Broodlings. Oh wow, look how quickly he savaged that 3rd base. There's no minerals there, so that's not a target of strategic importance. But it does make a great statement, especially since the tech is all there. The late game tech is all at the 3rd. MaxPax can kill it all. He is not going to. He's going to leave it. Oh man, I think his wife just called him home to wash the dishes or something. He just passed on some nice targets of opportunity there. Lambo's gonna try to get those slow-moving broodlords into position. Oh man, you kill both those spires, you prevent the remax with corruptors. Lambo actually started a third spire just in case. He's hid it in his main. Lambo's really split his forces here. He's got his ultras on one end of the map, broodlords on the other. Both players losing bases right now, but since they're both maxed and both have banks, it's not particularly game-ending for either of them. Squashing your opponent's army is of greater value right now. That's how this game gets won. But as we so often see, both players know that, so both players want the perfect engagement. Oh, those Dark Templar are not allowed to go anywhere. It's death by broodling for them. Oh, Lambo's linked up his forces. Oh, the metallic broodlings look kind of cool too. I may have misjudged this skin. Maybe because you really need to see it in 4K to see what it's bringing to the table. MaxPax splitting his army into all its individual components. I don't think that's at all intentional. I think he'll be grouping it back up. There, the Immortals catch up to the Archons. Okay, so when MaxPax loses his Dark Templar, he fills up the space with new Void Rays. That is how he's going to adjust to the Broodlords. I feel why Zerg is so vexed right now. It really does sort of feel like Protoss always has that rock, scissor, paper answer. Oh, I claim this land for Spain. Look at that. MaxPax dropping a zillion buildings all over Lambo's expansion. Like he's going to stand for that. Oh, those Void Rays are so good against so many things in the Zerg army right now. You can see he turns on the wide beam, the prismatic alignment, so he can do that extra damage against armor. Oh, Lambo's actually going to vacate. Is MaxPax really going to get the bottom corner expansion? Or is Lambo just thinking this is a job for Broodlords? Interesting, that redundant spire that Lambo is making, he's turning it into a greater spire. He does not want his Broodlord production disrupted at any time. Lambo's remaking his third base, even though there's probably less than 300 minerals there at this point. I think he just wants to make sure he has all that larva ready for the remax. That is one of Zerg's greatest weapons in the late game. Yeah, you can kill my army, but can you kill the next one that I'm gonna build? And the one after that? Though it does take quite the base for the triple remax. Oh, MaxPax is donating probes. He's freeing up supply for more Void Rays. And he's adding Stargate 5 and 6 to help him. He might be thinking about a little remax of his own. I mean, they don't call him MaxPax for nothing. Though he might have just named himself after the coffee. Who am I to know? Oh yeah, abducts on the Void Rays. That's going to be big. If Lambo can keep the Void Ray count down, that's going to give him a compositional edge. Oh, MaxPax going for Tempest. We are officially ultra late game. Oh, big trades on the ground going on here. MaxPax losing his Immortals and Archons. Lambo's supply dropping as his Ultra count disappears. Lambo not rebuilding his Ultras. He's going for more Corruptors. You can just never have enough of those. MaxPax gonna go up to 5 Tempests. Once that happens, that kind of puts a clock on the game. Wow, I did not think that MaxPax was ever gonna hold that base. But just to finish my prior thought, the impact that the Tempests have is they can fire long-distance volleys at the Zerg. That means if Zerg doesn't engage, they're going to get softened up. So instead of being patient and waiting for the perfect moment, Zerg is forced to attack sooner. And if they choose the wrong time, Protoss will crush them. Oh, but I think the issue has just been forced. We've got ourselves a big engagement. Parasitic bombs all over the Protoss. He's got to disperse. Those hanging green clouds are doing damage to everything in their path. It forces MaxPax to split his units, which he does not want to do. Wow, he's still holding that bottom corner base. And Lambo's taking the top corner. Okay, so the Tempests are on the board now. They're just not with the main army yet. Big clash, feedbacks going off on the Infestors. The Infestors hit a fungal growth. More parasitic bombs, fungal growth keeping the units clumped together. The Broodlings kill the High Templar. There are no storms. Lambo is crushing this. The Zerg spellcasters have done this. MaxPax has no army. He is not trying to rebuild. He's going to try to warp in Stalkers. We've seen it done before. They can blink away from the Broodlings, but if there's Ultras on the field, I'm not sure they can do much of anything. Lambo immediately starts adding back in Ultras, and his Broodlords go right at the Stalkers. His Tempest never got to link up with the main army. That's a GG! Very interesting, very modern game. Stay tuned, people. Gonna have some stuff to say about this one. So, a bit of a confession. Normally when I cast a game and there's big stretches where the players are passive, I typically won't upload it. I just don't have enough smart things to say, and if the game gets dull, I won't subject my subscribers to it. I want people to trust that if I upload a game, it's going to show them something worth seeing. The mid game here was definitely passive, but I think the late game made it worthwhile. Lambo, you see, has been vocal in his many recent interviews that Zerg can defeat Protoss in the late game. He agrees it's hard, but he doesn't feel it's hopeless. Cyril, for example, is on record talking about how important it is to defeat Protoss before the late game, where the toss hits that compositional comfort zone. So this was really a chance for Lambo to put his money where his mouth was, so to speak, and I was thrilled to see he delivers the goods. I loved how in the final fight, he uses a combination of parasitic bomb and fungal growth. It was almost like, what if Zerg had Storm at their disposal? Now there's a scary thought. To defeat parasitic bomb, you gotta split, and you won't be splitting much of anything if you're under a fungal. But the micro to pull that off for Zerg is just off the charts. So I think the bottom line is that PvZ has really become a great matchup. I'm probably going to cast a lot of it, and I hope you'll join me. Hitting that subscribe button is one way to support the war effort. So from my base to yours, Zugzwang out. To continue your Starcraft journey, Nova advises you to click the video in the upper rectangle. But Kerrigan warns you to watch your 6 and click the video in the bottom rectangle. Or you can stimpack your Starcraft experience. Subscribe to Zugzwang Starcraft. Just hit the circle. From my base to yours, Zugzwang out.